He was still breathing until he opened his eyes and saw it. At the edge of the road, his body lay still, and before him stood a figure that cast no shadow, yet stole the air. What would you do if, between a single breath and silence, the angel of death looked into your soul? This story unveils what few dare to speak, and what Scripture quietly reveals about that final encounter. Perhaps the fear of tomorrow has been circling your thoughts. Or maybe you felt something unseen watching you these past days. Have you ever wondered who would come to meet you if tonight were your last? This journey takes you through a spiritual crossing, from the moment the body falls to the instant the soul awakens. Prepare to see the other side and understand what it reveals about this side. If something stirred within you, stay until the end. For perhaps your soul is waiting for answers that only appear when the invisible steps forward. Welcome to Bible Stories and Mysteries. If this message awakened something deep in you, like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to remember. Some truths are only seen by the soul. He did not fall, he drifted. Like a leaf loosed from the branch in late autumn, he was carried, not pushed, into the unseen. No crash, no scream, only release. A stillness deeper than silence enveloped him, like water around a stone dropped into the sea. And in that stillness something ancient began to stir. It was not memory, it was not fear, it was a presence, yet not yet visible, as though the air itself knew someone had left the world of breath. The soul is not blind, not after death. It sees with an awareness unclouded by the senses, and what it sees first is not angels or fire, but stillness. A stillness so thick it breathes, so alive it seems to listen. There are no voices in this moment, no names, only a holy suspense, like the hush inside a cathedral before the procession begins. The soul, still warm from its earthly shell, trembles, not in terror, in awe. Something is coming, but not fast, not loud, not cruel. That presence, it does not walk, it does not fly. It draws near like a scent, like incense rising behind the veil. You don't see it, you sense it, behind you, beside you, already within you. There is no form to it yet, no face, just an awareness that the invisible has noticed you, that you are no longer alone, and yet no comfort or fear is given, only knowing. He remembered no pain, only the moment his breath stilled, and then this. That first realization that he was outside his body, watching the room from above, yet more real than ever. Colors bled with light, sounds stretched like chords echoing across eternity. But the center of it all was stillness. Something unseen waited inside that stillness. A figure, perhaps an angel, perhaps something else, not evil, but not yet revealed. What comes first is not hell nor heaven. It is a threshold, a space where everything goes quiet until the soul understands it has crossed. In that moment, many try to speak, but the mouth is no longer theirs. They try to return, but time no longer obeys them. Silence becomes the new language, and in that language, something speaks, without saying a single word. As he stood or hovered, the atmosphere itself shifted. It was like standing at the edge of an ocean cliff and feeling the wind lift from the deep. Something was approaching, but it was not bound by steps or space. It was eternal, and with it came not dread, but a holy anticipation. Not a man, not a ghost, not yet light, but it moved with the gravity of 1,000 years. He thought of all he'd left, the hands he did not hold, the prayers half whispered, the regrets he buried under laughter. But none of that followed him now. Only this presence, still unnamed, still unseen, but waiting. The soul doesn't leave with noise. It slips through silence, and when it does, something waits on the other side. Some are met with brilliance, a figure so radiant that even memory cannot contain it. No wings, no halo, just light, alive, intelligent, and utterly aware of them. Others feel it before they see, a warm breath, a perfume not of flowers but of peace, like jasmine carried on celestial wind. These are the souls welcomed with grace, the ones who see the messenger as beauty, as glory, as one who comes with open arms and not with a blade. But not all encounters are the same. For some, it is not light that comes, but shadow, a shape that seems to absorb the air, drinking every whisper of light. It does not move quickly, it does not speak, but its silence is full of weight, and the soul, in its honesty, knows why this presence has come, not to punish, not even to accuse, but to reflect, to mirror what the soul has become in life. Why is it that two people can die within moments of each other, one feeling embraced, the other trembling in the cold gaze of something ancient and watchful? The Church Fathers whispered of angels who rejoice at every soul redeemed, but also of watchers whose very presence is a judgment, not because they accuse, but because they reveal. What appears at the moment of death is often shaped by how we lived. The soul's experience becomes its own echo. Some who devoted their lives to love, in secret acts of kindness, in forgiveness offered without applause, see the messenger as a familiar, a companion they somehow knew would come. But those who hardened, who fed on vengeance, who closed their hearts to the poor, they see something else. They do not recognize the face that comes for them. Or worse, they do, and it terrifies them. On certain deathbeds, the eyes of the dying open wide, not from pain, but from astonishment. They see something no one else in the room perceives. Some smile before their final breath, others scream, not from pain, but from despair. The soul knows whom it is facing. It senses whether it is being received or revealed. And the face it sees is the reflection of what it cultivated in life. But there is still mercy, even in the shadow. Because the figure, whether cloaked in light or wrapped in darkness, does not come as a stranger. It comes with knowledge, with memory, with compassion, or with truth. And even the truth, hard as it may be, is a mercy if seen in time. The figure does not choose its shape, the soul does. That is the first test of death, not judgment, but revelation. The unmasking of what has always been, hidden beneath flesh and excuses. The angel does not speak, but it shows. And in that showing, the soul makes its first confession, without a word. If this stirred something within you, don't look away. There is more than fear or comfort waiting in that moment. There is truth. Like, comment and share this with someone you love, because everyone meets someone when the veil is lifted. But not everyone is ready. Before the soul sees the face, it hears the word, not spoken aloud, but echoing from within. Scripture, once read with the eyes of flesh, now burns in the memory of the Spirit. And among its most haunting whispers is the tale of a night in Egypt. There, under moonlight and dread, the angel of the Lord moved in silence, striking down the firstborn of the land. No scream foretold his coming, no eye saw him, but every soul knew he had passed. The Hebrews were saved by blood on doorposts, a sign not of fear, but of covenant. And in every soul's final hour that night lives again. The angel of death is never named there, but he is known, not by title, by presence, by the way hearts trembled, by how time paused. That same stillness that visited Egypt visits us in the final breath. It does not rush, it waits, it watches, it fulfills what was already written. Death in Scripture is not chaos, it is orchestration. An ancient rhythm. Every departure is a verse in a divine liturgy, and the soul hears it finally without distraction. In the book of Tobit, we find Raphael, not an angel of death, but one who travels with the living and guides the soul toward healing. Yet even he declares, "I am one of the 7 who stand before the Lord." He carries Tobit's prayers, he binds a demon, he walks unseen beside the boy. If such beings guide the living, is it not reasonable that others escort the dying? The Church has long held that no soul crosses alone, that even in silence one is accompanied. And then Revelation opens its scrolls, a pale horse, its rider named Death. Behind him, Hades follows. But this is not a horror. It is a revelation. It is not about punishment. It is about unveiling. The souls of the martyrs cry out beneath the altar, asking how long until justice. The angels sound trumpets, pour bowls, open seals, and somewhere amid that storm of glory, a figure waits for each soul, not to harm, but to usher. Some are drawn upward, others descend, but all are claimed. In the tradition of the saints, forgotten visions speak softly. Saint Macarius saw a soul leaving the body, surrounded by powers, some of light, some of terror. Jerome once wrote, "Even the air groans when a righteous soul departs." Heaven does not overlook the death of its saints, and where there is pain, there is also reception. The angel who carries is not the same as the one who accuses, and the one who watches does not always show his face. The early church sang of these moments in their liturgies. May angels lead you into paradise. May martyrs welcome you. The soul is not thrown into eternity, it is received, and who receives it, that is the mystery. The one who comes reflects not only God's justice, but also his patience. Some are met by Michael the protector, others by lesser-known beings, watchers from Daniel's visions, or veiled presences from the Apocrypha. Their wings are not always visible. Sometimes they appear as men, sometimes as wind, sometimes only as silence. So when the soul opens its new eyes and sees who has come, it must remember, Scripture has always told this story. In shadows and symbols, in dreams and judgments, from Passover to Pentecost, from exile to resurrection, the presence of the divine messenger has lingered at every threshold. We just did not recognize it. Perhaps that is why the Church taught us to pray for a holy death, not to avoid it, but to meet the one who comes with peace in our heart. Because the angel of death is not just the end, he is a witness to how we loved, to what we carried, to whom we belonged. He stood there, or something stood, but it did not step forward, it did not speak. The soul knew it was seen entirely. Every thought, every hour of hidden desire, every mercy given in secret, all was open to this being. Yet it made no gesture of condemnation. It simply watched. And in that gaze, the soul felt what Adam must have felt the moment he hid behind the fig leaves, exposed, yet still loved. There was no halo, no sword, no flame, only stillness that pierced deeper than any word. The soul tried to look away, but found it could not. This was not force, it was gravity, the kind that binds planets, the kind that binds eternity to choice. It was not death, but the one who held death. And his face, if he had one, was not terrible, but true. Throughout history, saints and mystics spoke of a being like this, not Michael who battles, not Gabriel who announces, not Raphael who heals. This one had no name in Scripture, but his shadow was cast long over its pages. In early Christian tradition, some called him Azrael. Others spoke of him in hushed tones as the Watcher, the Silent One. He appears in the writings of the Desert Fathers, in the dreams of dying monks, in the near-death accounts of those who returned changed. It was not hell that frightened them. It was the silence of that figure. He did not accuse, yet he revealed. He did not touch, yet he weighed. And every memory rose, not as guilt, but as truth. Like reading a book and realizing you were both the author and the judged, and the one reading was God. This being did not resemble the grim figures of folklore with scythes and bones, nor did he shine with the brilliance of the seraphim. He was something else, familiar, yet unknowable, as if he had walked beside the soul since birth, saying nothing, recording everything, a presence without a name, not because it was forgotten, but because it was never meant to be spoken. His authority came not from voice, but from essence. He did not ask questions. He did not open scrolls. The judgment was not a courtroom scene. It was recognition, and the soul recognized him, though they had never met. There was an intimacy in that moment, the kind one only finds at the end of a very long journey. He was not friend or foe. He was the threshold itself. What stood behind him, the soul could not yet see. In medieval visions, some saints described him as draped in stars, his robe woven from the prayers of the forgotten. Others saw him as plain, a man in dust-covered garments, silent as stone. A few, very few, said he bore no form at all. He was wind and time, and when he turned, you saw your own face reflected back, not as you were, but as you truly are. And in that reflection, the soul begins to understand. This being does not come to take, he comes to reveal, to stand as the final mirror, not to frighten, but to invite. Invite what? That remains the question, but the soul feels it, a question rising like incense from the silence. If you've ever felt that someone was watching you in moments of secret sorrow, if you've ever felt a sudden stillness fall upon your spirit in the middle of the night, perhaps it was not imagination. Perhaps he was there, the presence without a name. He did not flee. He could not. But he did feel something rising from within, not from the being before him, but from the depths of his own soul. It was not terror, not peace. It was something more ancient, recognition. The presence in front of him did not impose fear nor offer comfort. It simply allowed him to see himself. And in that gaze, the soul realized fear or peace is already chosen. It does not come from without. It awakens from within. Some souls feel warmth, like the breath of a familiar voice long lost. They remember a mother's blessing, a quiet act of mercy, the face of someone they forgave without reward. These memories are not summoned. They rise naturally, and they do not come as comfort, but as confirmation. The presence before them doesn't bring peace. It reflects the peace they carried through life. Others feel a coldness that does not come from the being, but from the hollow spaces left behind by love withheld. They relive moments when they could have forgiven and didn't. Opportunities to be kind, refused. Words they spoke that wounded deeply. They are not accused, they are remembered, and memory becomes their judgment. The soul now sees its life not as scattered moments, but as a tapestry, woven by small, consistent threads. Mercy, silence, sacrifice, or bitterness, pride, self. There is no external verdict, no booming voice declaring guilt or innocence. Only a sacred unveiling of what already is. The present stands still, and the soul becomes the witness of its own truth. Ancient wisdom held that judgment is not a courtroom, it is a mirror. What the soul sees in that mirror is not what others saw, but what God always knew. And in that unveiling, the soul weeps, not always from sorrow, often from gratitude, because finally it sees clearly. Finally, it understands what it was made to become. It is said in mystical tradition that heaven and hell are not places, but conditions. They begin within. The soul either tastes eternity as welcome or as fire. Not because God imposes it, but because the soul has aligned itself through years of unseen choices. Where the tree falls, there it will lie. At the end, the soul meets itself and must dwell with what it finds. Even in that moment, no word is spoken. The angel remains silent, but the silence is alive. as if God is allowing the soul to speak first. And what the soul says, without lips, is a final confession, not of crimes, but of desires. What it desired most, that is what shapes the encounter. If it desired love, love meets it. If it desired only self, it finds only itself. Some believe that even here grace whispers one last time, that mercy like light seeks every crevice, and the soul, even if afraid, can lean just slightly toward the presence. And that leaning becomes surrender. And that surrender becomes salvation. If your soul felt the stir of memory, or your heart trembled at the thought of meeting yourself at the end, comment, "I choose peace now." And share this with someone who still believes they have time, because they do, and so do you. Most never hear his voice, not because he is mute, but because his purpose is not to speak, it is to reveal. His silence is not emptiness. It is a presence too full for words. Like the moment before a storm breaks, like the breath before a violin string is drawn, it holds everything. The angel of death does not need to speak, because what he brings is already known to the soul he faces. And yet, there are those rare moments when he does. His voice is not sound, but recognition. It moves through memory, through bone, through soul. It awakens what has long been hidden, not forgotten, but buried beneath noise and time. The soul hears it, not with ears, but with essence. And when it does, it knows, this voice has spoken to me before, in dreams, in silences, in mercy. Some near death have whispered back. They have mouthed words no one else understood. "Yes," one said. Another, "I'm ready." A third, barely audible, "Now." These were not cries of fear. They were replies, not to the living, but to the one who came. When asked later what they'd seen, those who returned wept, not from confusion, but from awe. A single word had pierced them, not like a wound, like light. There are testimonies of people returning with messages. "He told me it wasn't time. He asked if I was willing. He said my name." Always simple, always final. The angel does not explain, he confirms, he does not instruct, he releases. His words are not instructions, they are invitations, but even when he says nothing, something is spoken. His silence is not absence, it is mirror, and what it reflects depends on the soul. To the peaceful, it feels like a lullaby. To the tormented, it feels like being seen too deeply, too fully. He does not judge. He allows the soul to echo what it already is. Some monastics taught that if the angel speaks, it is grace. But if he remains silent, it is not a curse. It is sacred stillness, a final space where the soul may hear the sound of its own life. And in that moment, perhaps for the first time, it understands what its time on earth truly meant. They also believed that the voice of the angel is made of the name only God knows, and when the soul hears that name, it does not resist. It remembers who it is, and in that remembrance, it surrenders, not out of fear, but out of longing, because the one who speaks is not stranger. He is origin. So if you wonder what he will say when he comes, begin listening now, in the quiet between your thoughts, in the hour just before dawn, in the long pause between prayers. Perhaps he is already speaking, perhaps he already said it, and you were too busy to hear. The soul that learns silence in life will not fear it in death. And if that silence has spoken to you before, if the thought of his voice made something in your chest grow still, then hold that moment. Let it change you. Let it cleanse the noise from your days. For when he comes, what you hear, or do not hear, will be shaped by what you listened to all along. She was gone for 23 minutes. That's what the chart said. But what she described wasn't darkness. It was a corridor of absolute stillness. At the far end, a presence waited. It didn't move. It didn't call. But it knew her. "I felt that if I took one more step," she whispered, "I wouldn't return." The doctors called it a dream, but her eyes never looked at the world the same again. Across the earth, stories echo the same mystery. A child in India saw a man clothed in mist who said nothing, just watched her as her heart stopped. A soldier in the desert felt a presence at his side just before the explosion, then woke up, days later, changed. A young boy with a fever claimed someone stood at his window all night, whispering, "Not yet." These stories sound like myth, but they are remembered with tears. They speak not of monsters or torment, but of a knowing presence, not cruel, not kind, simply there, as if death does not surprise us, but completes us. And the ones who saw him early, they carry that silence for the rest of their lives, a silence not of fear, but of memory. What makes these stories sacred is not their drama, but their stillness. They do not describe chaos, they describe clarity, a boundary crossed for a moment, and a gate that gently closed again. It is not proof that matters, it is the impression left behind, as if their souls were briefly shown something no language can carry. There are rare moments when even after the body has stopped, something remains unfinished, a choice still hanging in eternity's breath. And in those moments the angel does not pull, he waits. He offers a silence so profound that even the soul must decide to stay, to let go, or to surrender completely. Some have felt it, the moment where love still calls them back. A mother's voice, a child's hand, an unfinished prayer. They are given the choice, not with words, but with longing, to return or to continue forward. And those who return never forget the one who waited, never urging, only witnessing. But for most, the invitation is not to go back. It is to surrender, not to an end, to a beginning. Death, in its most sacred form, is not exile. It is return, a homecoming for those who remember where they came from. And for those who forgot, it becomes mercy that burns like fire, cleansing the soul in its final decision. So yes, grace reaches even after the heart stops. Not because God hesitates, but because God is patient. The angel does not drag the soul, he holds space. And in that space, the final yes is whispered, or the final no. The soul knows it, and the silence around that choice becomes the echo of eternity. And if you've ever wondered if there's time left for you, if mercy still waits, then hear this. The invitation hasn't left. It's in the stillness between your thoughts, in the tug you feel when love calls, in the ache for something more. Respond while breath is yours, because the one who waits only so long. In the end, we will not be asked how much we built, but how deeply we loved. Not what we conquered, but what we surrendered. And when the silence comes, may it find in us a soul already listening. If something in this story awakened a quiet truth in you, don't let it fade. Subscribe to Bible Stories and Mysteries and gently ring the bell icon. Not for noise, but to be reminded when eternity whispers again.